2024 is well and truly underway, especially in the US. The presidential election is not until November, but already things are heating up, and that's probably an understatement. Joining me is John Hinderaker of the Powerline blog and president of the Center of the American Experiment. John, the Iowa caucus begins Monday, which will indicate who Republican voters would like on the presidential ballot. Meanwhile, frontrunner Donald Trump, he's in court. Hunter Biden is in court. Joe Biden's in church telling black worshippers that white supremacy is the greatest threat to America, while in New York, American kids are being kicked out of school classrooms so they can be used to house illegal immigrants. Now, we'll talk about all of that in detail in a moment, but first, I've got to ask you, is this a typical election year?
We've never seen anything like it. I mean, things are just spinning out of control. We've got the party in power trying to put their number one opponent in prison. We've had 2 states now rule that Donald Trump can't be on the ballot in the 2024 election. That matter now in the United States Supreme Court. So in many ways, we are in uncharted territory.
All right, well, let's start with the Republican primaries. Chris Christie has dropped out of the race. So we've got left Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy and Donald Trump. Of those 4, who wins the Iowa caucus on Monday?
Well, of course, we know Donald Trump has a big lead in the polls, but primary polling is notoriously volatile, and I don't think you can poll caucuses too accurately. Ron DeSantis has spent a lot of time in Iowa, and he has the endorsement of Iowa's governor, who's very popular. So I think there's some chance that we could see an upset, and maybe DeSantis can pull it out.
You don't rate Nikki Haley's chances?
Well, she might pull it out as well. DeSantis has invested more time than Haley has in Iowa. Conversely, I think Haley has invested more in New Hampshire than DeSantis has.
Which was going to be my next question. After Iowa comes New Hampshire. How do you see that one unfolding?
Well, that was really interesting because the polling is closer in New Hampshire than it is in a lot of states. And that's the one state where Chris Christie actually had some fairly significant support. He's now out of the race. Now, none of those Christie voters are going to go to Donald Trump. And I think if Nikki Haley can pick up the large majority of those Christie voters, then I think she's got a real shot in New Hampshire.
So all of that is interesting, but let's be honest, is there any chance that Donald Trump won't be the Republican candidate? Leaving aside his court dramas for a moment, but in terms of the Republican primaries, is there any chance they'll nominate anyone other than Trump, seriously?
Well, I think there is. We've seen many front runners in the early polling and the primary process crash and burn. Ed Muskie, Howard Dean, many others. Rudy Giuliani was leading the polls at one point, I think, in 2016. So the primary polling is very, very volatile. And if Trump loses a primary or 2, the momentum, I think, could shift very rapidly. And beyond that, we can't totally discount all these criminal proceedings and so on. Right now, he's scheduled to begin a criminal trial on March 4th.
Well, as you say, I mean, he's facing numerous charges in multiple courts at the moment, from racketeering to possession of stolen documents, charges of trying to overturn an election result. Yesterday, he was in court defending charges he'd inflated valuations on real estate to obtain more favourable loans. Here he is speaking at a news conference yesterday.
It's all a conspiracy to try and get Biden, who can't put 2 sentences together, trying to get him into office. So I just want to let you know that we have our best poll numbers, we have the best everything, despite this, and maybe because of this, because the people of the United States, all of those people back there, but the people of the United States really get it. They get it better than anybody else.
Is Trump right? Would he be facing any of these charges if he was not running for president?
Well, he would not. I mean, what Trump said there is basically correct. I think all of these charges against him are bogus, and I think they have caused Republicans in particular to rally around him. Some people think that's what the Democrats intended, that they want Trump to be the nominee. I don't know, but I do think that these charges against him are really, fictitious.
Well, someone else was in court this week. Hunter Biden made a surprise appearance. He sat in the front row of a congressional hearing on whether he was in contempt of Congress over his refusal to comply with a subpoena for testimony. Just briefly, John, what is that all about?
No one knows. I don't think anybody has any idea what was going on. So this committee hearing in the House of Representatives, they're talking about whether to find Hunter Biden in contempt for failing to respond to a subpoena. In the middle of the hearing, the doors open up, and here comes Hunter with his lawyer and this friend of his who's given him millions of dollars to subsidize his lifestyle and pay his back taxes, and they're followed by a film crew. Apparently somebody is making a documentary about Hunter Biden. So they walk into the hearing room, the film crew comes in with them, they sit down on the front row, and of course there's chaos, They sit there for 15 minutes or so, they get up and walk out. I don't think anybody has any idea why Hunter Biden did that. I have to think that Joe Biden is not happy to see Hunter creating that kind of a spectacle and drawing attention, to his own problems. But nobody really gets it.
Well, I reckon you're absolutely right. Joe Biden must be horrified, because have a look at this, John. This is the media scrum after Hunter Biden exited the courtroom. Have a look.
And let me make a statement, okay?
What kind of crack do you normally smoke, Mr. Biden?
No one was interested in the court proceedings. They just wanted to know, what kind of coke do you smoke, or what kind of crack do you take?
I mean, you got to think that Joe Biden would like Hunter just to you get on a very slow boat and go a long way away between now and the election. But, Hunter's got a trial coming up, I believe, on, 9 felony federal tax evasion charges. And these, I think, are, unlike the charges against Donald Trump, are real and serious. And again, who knows what the consequences of that are going to be.
Is there any chance that Joe Biden is not the Democrat nominee? And could they use the trouble with Hunter as a pretext for pushing him aside and getting another candidate who, is actually alive?
Well, a year ago, I was confidently predicting that Joe Biden would not be the Democrats' nominee. What you hear out of Washington is that they would like to get rid of him, but they can't figure out how to do it. They really can't get rid of Joe Biden without his agreement. He's got to consent. He's got to step down. He's got to go on television and say that he's changed his mind and decided not to run for re-election. And apparently, he doesn't want to do that. But I think we're going to be seeing right up through the Democratic convention next summer a lot of speculation about whether they're going to try to force Biden out and get somebody else in. And then, of course, the question is who, because the reality is the Democrats don't really have a very good alternative.
All right, I want to change the subject for a moment, because I've got to get your thoughts on this one, John. I always believed that the education of children was valued in America, but who knows, maybe I was wrong. New York's Democrat Mayor Eric Adams has prioritised illegal immigrants over American children. The mayor of New York City ordered the closure of James Madison High School in Brooklyn this week, forcing students into remote learning so the school could be used as a shelter for illegal migrants. This can't really be happening in the United States, can it? I mean, it is.
Well, in that case, I think they just kicked the kids out for a day or two. But what's happening is that historically, this burden of illegal immigration has been borne by the border states, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, and so on. And the governors of some of those states won't take it anymore. And so they're sending busloads of these illegal immigrants to places like New York and Chicago and Denver. And so these cities that proudly proclaim themselves sanctuary cities, well, all of a sudden, they've got to actually deal with, in New York's case, I think it's about 167,000 illegal immigrants that have been shipped there on buses, and their systems are completely breaking down. They don't know what to do about it. But more broadly, it is true that illegal immigrants are being treated kind of bizarrely well compared to American citizens. So in California, for example, illegal immigrants are now legally entitled to free health care. And in my own state, Minnesota, illegal immigrants now qualify to go to college for free. And so, we have millions of people coming across the border. And you can understand why they want to do it when they are being welcomed in that fashion, notwithstanding that they're here in this country illegally.
Well, we're watching the United States with great interest this year. John Heindraker, great talking to you.